Hello and welcome to Keeping It Real with Hamza Ameer. The Russia-Ukraine crisis is a wake-up call and a learning experience for many powers in the world who think that their savior is going to be NATO, United Kingdom, European Union, or the United States. Those countries who bank on these countries need to see what has happened with Ukraine in this crisis, where Russia has invaded Ukraine in an all-out offensive aimed at taking over the regime of Ukraine and toppling the current ruling government because of the only fact that they wanted and they showed the willingness to join the NATO partner countries. Putin has made this very clear. He is not going to talk to the Ukrainian government, and he has also made this very clear that any other country who tries to intervene in any possible way in the ongoing invasion of Ukraine by Russia, they are going to be responded immediately and in a way, as I quote Putin saying, in a way that will be never been seen or felt in the history. Now that threat was taken very seriously, in fact, because it seemed that the kind of response that NATO came up with the kind of response United Kingdom came up with, United States came up with, it actually was a hit in the back of Ukrainian government, because now they are left to fight this war all by themselves, while all the other global powers, especially the Western powers, including NATO, are actually imposing financial sanctions, which they say in time are going to have a massive impact on the economy of Russia, which they say is the right justice and accountability that Putin will have to go through. But unfortunately enough, as we speak even at this moment, Russia is in process of taking over Ukraine. Their forces are about a few kilometers away from the capital Kyiv of Ukraine, and they are on the verge of actually toppling down the overall democratic setup of the Ukrainian government, because Putin says that the very existence of Ukraine should not have even been there, and it is basically a discovery that was done after the Soviet war. So they do not even recognize that. Now, interestingly enough, the Ukrainian president has been offered by the United States to evacuate. They are actually announcing military aid worth $600 million. But what they are not realizing is the fact that as every hour passes, the resistance capability of the Ukrainian forces continues to deteriorate against the military might and a 7th-year attack of the Russian government. At this time, as we speak, there are 3 different locations and 3 different sides from where the capital of Ukraine is being taken over. The forces are from one side, as we've been told, have actually entered the capital of Ukraine, and they are in process of even taking over of the Ukrainian capital and the presidential and the government setup. So that means actually very clearly that Ukraine's willingness and hope that if there is an offensive launched by Russia against this country, the NATO forces, the Western world, the NATO allies, as it wanted to be, are going to come to the rescue. But it seems now that everyone has actually seen the fact that the financial dependencies on each other are going to hinder their intentions in any possible way to actually support Ukraine, because until the time they even come down to a resolution or at least an announcement of military aid to Ukraine, it might just so happen that Ukraine might not be even existent on the map of the world, and the Russian government should have actually, or would have actually taken over the overall proceedings, and the war would have actually ended. The regime change would have actually occurred. So that is something that is a wake-up call for the rest of the world on the kind of dependencies and the kind of reliance that they put on the Western world, on global powers like the United Kingdom and others. And it is time that we realize that financial dependencies is the name of the game in the current world that we live in. If the human lives don't matter, financial constraints and financial sanctions that are being put on Russia are not stopping bullets. They're not stopping bombs, and civilians are dying. Over 100,000 people have evacuated and migrated into Poland in the past 24 hours. So this is a very serious wake-up call for every other country who actually thinks that any other country who is the first world race of the world would actually come to their rescue, because when it comes to the financial dependencies on each other, these countries only look at their own national interests, and that is how the whole scenario of the Russia-Ukraine crisis has concluded, because the world is protesting. Protests are being taken out in every possible corner of the world. Everyone is demanding an end to this war, but no one is coming to fight and stand shoulder to shoulder with the Ukrainian government or the Ukrainian people. It is only them who have to fight against a military might which is the largest in the world. And obviously, it is very clear and eminent now that the decision of the fate of Ukraine lies in the hands of Russia and Vladimir Putin. Thank you.